Part 92. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 911. On the horizon, the first ray of sunlight suddenly appeared and shone on the side of Zhu Yun's face. On the other side, the moon, with its pale white light, was about to set below the horizon. Zhu Yun didn't know how high he was flying, but he knew that he might not reach the top of the sky. Forget it, why don't we go back? Maybe this world is also a formation that traps people in it. Only when the people in the formation are strong enough to affect the formation will they let people leave. Zhu Yun stopped and let the cold wind rage. He stood quietly high in the sky and looked at the direction of the rising sun. Not knowing what he was thinking, he lowered his head, but his expression was suddenly stunned. Without knowing how high he was, he actually saw a large area of blue. Blue, extremely broad blue. This is the wild sea area. In his field of vision, patches of white cloud slowly blocked his sight, but were then blown away by the wind. The sea area is so big. Zhu Yun couldn't help but sigh, and suddenly an idea came to his mind. How about if I turn sideways, can I see the whole world? If I can return to the East mortal realm, does that mean that I can also go to another place? 3 mortal realms. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun couldn't help but feel a little excited. At the beginning, he thought that the mortal world and the spiritual world were two completely different worlds. But Huang Longshu told him that the mortal world and the spiritual world were just realms divided by the way of heaven because of different levels of power. So, since the spiritual world and the mortal world are connected, are they separated by barriers like the 4 realms in the eastern mortal world? Zhu Yun thinks it is very possible. Because when he first arrived in the spirit world, the spiritual energy here was so rich that it was difficult for him to move even at the peak of his late nascent soul. It is precisely because of this that he feels that it is a different world. Huang Longshu completely overturned this idea in his mind. Even if you can't reach the mortal world from the air, it's a worthwhile trip if you can know what the world you're in looks like. Just as he was about to fly towards the east at full speed, a golden light suddenly flashed across the sky at the position of the rising sun. The golden light was very bright, but not dazzling, and it immediately attracted Zhu Yun's attention. Immediately afterwards, the golden light gradually became thicker, stronger, and faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a golden light. When it passed over his head, everything he could see turned into golden yellow. This is... Zhu Yun opened his mouth wide, his heart already extremely shocked. Because he can't feel any power. It stands to reason that the power contained in this kind of vision is very strong. But he couldn't feel it at all. Could it be that it is outside the sky and comes from the fairy world? Fairyland. Xianxia. Suddenly, Zhu Yun reacted and quickly looked along the direction of the golden light. But already, I can't see the edge. But at least he could determine the direction. There, it's heaven and earth. Go and have a look, Xianxia is born. I think many people are flocking to it, but no one will pay attention to me. Besides, I still have an incarnation in the universe world, so I am very safe. Zhu Yun immediately made a decision and flew towards the direction of the sky. The sky is beyond the sky. When the first ray of sunlight illuminated the far east, everyone opened their eyes almost at the same time. In a valley in the far east, it is densely packed with human figures. There are ordinary cultivators and there are demon cultivators who have transformed. There are seniors in the Mahayana stage, and there are also comparable demon saints. Of course, there are also some demon cultivators who cover themselves in black robes. They came from the land of Juyu and showed up yesterday to enter the location where they would appear on the immortal platform. Almost, it's coming. Not far from the valley, several people in the tribulation stage also opened their eyes and looked to the east. The rising sun is rising in the east, but the golden light is still far away, and the light cannot reach the sun. But soon, the golden light became stronger and stronger, as if there was some huge monster beast with a golden mouth that was devouring the blue sky and white clouds. Coming, coming. In the valley, such a sound suddenly sounded. This is their closest chance to becoming immortal. In other words, no one among them has ever experienced it. Xianxia, there is only one request. As long as you are not in the tribulation period, everyone can participate. Regardless of the number of people, regardless of whether you have participated before. It doesn't matter if you are human or not. It doesn't matter whether you have practiced cultivation or not. In everyone's excited eyes, golden light engulfed the entire sky and shone on everyone. Boom! When the golden light completely enveloped the world, there was a sudden loud noise in the sky. Boom! The sky shook, but Tianwei was not affected in any way. Immediately afterwards, all the golden light centered over the valley where these people were located began to condense rapidly. After a while, the sky returned to normal, but a high platform appeared in the center. Some monks who couldn't hold back suddenly jumped up and flew towards the high platform, thinking that they could seize the opportunity. But he never thought that when no one reacted, a golden thunder appeared out of thin air under the high platform and instantly turned the monk into a powder. Oh, these monks, even if they know the time and place where Xianxia Terrace was born, don't understand the rules of Xianxia Terrace, they are just here to die. A person in the tribulation stage said with an indifferent expression. Okay, now that the ascension platform has appeared, let's not meddle in other people's business. Let's take a good look and see if there are any laws of the fairy world on it. Whether we can comprehend them is the real thing. Yes, the fairy world has been restless recently. If we can master some abilities before ascending, perhaps after entering the fairy world, we can also occupy a place in the fairy gate. Feel it well, I hope to gain something this time. These people in the tribulation period have also experienced the test of the ascension platform. Although they did not pass, they also gained something from it. It is not a treasure from heaven or earth, nor is it something from the fairy world. But through the power of the ascension platform, they felt the difference in power level. When they reach the tribulation period, they can no longer enter the ascension platform. So every 1,000 years, in addition to coming to maintain order, they will also feel the fairy power leaked from the outside world at the beginning of the ascension platform not far away. That's right, it's the fairy power. They are prepared for a rainy day, just wanting to gain a firm foothold after arriving in the fairy world. Several major transcendent forces have ancestors who became figures in the immortal world, so they passed down the news through various channels. The immortals have a long lifespan, but it does not mean that they will not be killed by others. So those immortals, in addition to cultivating themselves, also built immortal gates, so that when the younger generation comes up, they can gather together. Just like in the spiritual world, they have enough people, so they are strong enough. So when there is a chance, they will also generously send down some immortal things that can be used in the spiritual world, so that the younger generations in the lower world can practice more desperately. The ascension platform suddenly killed everyone without any warning, and the wind and waves suddenly returned to silence. No one dared to move again, and looked at the ascension platform quietly. The sky was peaceful. The Xianxia platform was changing silently. I saw that the high platform, after the golden light flowed for a while, suddenly a ladder extended from the bottom. This ladder is very long, extending from the sky to a place 1 mile away from the valley, and then a platform appears out of thin air before stopping. The platform is also composed of golden light, and the light is shaking, like a phantom. But everyone who sees it feels that they can stand on it. But with the lessons learned from the past, no one dares to move, for fear that this move will also attract golden thunder. Gradually, the golden light of this huge platform becomes solid. After a while, it really becomes a huge golden platform, like a stage covered with gold bricks. Soon, someone in the crowd muttered, This is a cultivator who has experienced the ascension platform. The golden light of the ascension air outlet will take several hours from the time it appears to the time when people are taken in for the test. And the real opening time will be at noon. When the sun and the golden light overlap again, it is the time for the ascension platform to begin the test. But no one knows except the children of the transcendent forces. They opened their eyes wide, not daring to blink. They were afraid that they would lose their chance when they blinked. Until, under the golden light, a small black dot suddenly appeared, instantly attracting everyone's attention. This person flew straight towards the ascension platform. Wasn't he afraid of being killed by the golden thunder? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 912. The person who came was Zuyun. Of course, he didn't know the rules of the ascension platform. He didn't even know where the ascension platform was in the heaven beyond heaven. But he found that after using the breaking void spirit eye technique, he could easily determine the location of the golden light, and he couldn't help but feel that it was also magical. Is this the ascension platform? Zuyun didn't fall directly, because he didn't want to enter the ascension platform. He wanted to ascend by practicing the 5 elements Chaos Sutra, not through this shortcut. Perhaps, from the realm, the person who passed would be an immortal. But from the state of mind? Definitely not. After the unintentional enlightenment of Muling Shengshan, Zuyun had figured it out. If the state of mind is unstable, there will be demons in the heart. Now, he is in the lower realm, and his mind is extremely firm. But he can't guarantee whether his Tao heart will loosen again after he suddenly ascends to the immortal world. So, he stopped. At the same time, he also found that countless pairs of eyes were watching him below. Even several people in the tribulation crossing period were surprised. Strange, where did that guy come from? Isn't he afraid of the ascension platform attacking him? Strange is, the ascension platform really didn't react. The 3 people's reactions were also somewhat puzzled. Let's wait and see. Anyway, this ascension platform has nothing to do with us. They also stopped comprehending the immortal power on the ascension platform and turned to stare at Zuyun. For them, sometimes abnormal things may give them a new understanding. And in the sky, Zuyun also found several sharp eyes, and couldn't help but tremble all over. Someone is looking at me. The realm is very high, but the eyes are not hostile. What, aren't you afraid that I will rush into the ascension platform? Zuyun murmured. He already knew more or less the rules of the ascension platform. However, he was not at a level that could see the admonitions in the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Since no one cared about him, Zuyun was too lazy to pay attention, so he just floated in the void and quietly watched the changes of the ascension platform. The platform below was almost formed, and the convergent golden light was slowly released again. Zuyun was high up and could see it more clearly. However, he only took a glance and followed the golden light to the top of the ascension platform. It was a step that could only accommodate one person, and it was surrounded by a fence made of golden light, as if it was afraid that people would fall from it. Is the ascension platform located at this position? Zuyun didn't know what he was thinking, and an idea popped up in his mind, that is, to use the breaking void spirit eye technique. But he never thought that when his eyes were looking at it, before Zuyun could see the essence of the golden light clearly, he suddenly felt a sharp stinging sensation in his eyes. Not good. Zuyun quickly closed his eyes and covered them with his hands, but the pain did not disappear, but became more and more intense. Not only that, a cold voice rang in Zuyun's mind, as if it came from outside the 9 heavens, extremely ethereal. Humph, you dare to explore the ascension platform with 5 spiritual roots? If you dare to do it again, I will let your soul fly away. When the last word of scatter came out, Zuyun felt as if his brain was hit hard. His body could no longer hold steady, and the chaotic power in his body burst out like a lake collapsing. At the same time, he also fell rapidly towards the ground. Look, look, the ascension platform finally punished him. Someone exclaimed. And some people gloated, you don't know how to live or die, you dare to fly so high, it's good enough that you didn't die. And several people in the tribulation period looked at each other in bewilderment. Although they were far away, the strength of their souls was not comparable to that of the cultivators below. Just now, they felt how Zuyun was injured. It was the ascension platform that caused damage to Zuyun's soul. So, does this ascension platform have its own thoughts? Zuyun was not dead, but he did not fall into the middle of the crowd, but was driven to the periphery. That was outside the range of the ascension platform. Xianxia, you go to the ascension platform later, I won't go. In a corner, Feng Qingyang looked inexplicably, and turned to look in the direction where Zuyun fell. He and Zhou Yingxia came here early. Okay. Zhou Yingxia's eyes were always filled with a fiery look. She didn't care what Feng Qingyang wanted to do. When she arrived in the spirit world, her goal was half achieved. If she could pass the test of the ascension platform, she would have no regrets in her life. Feng Qingyang was suddenly disappointed. Originally, Nanggong Tingfen told him not to tell Zhou Yingxia, but Feng Qingyang thought that Zhou Yingxia was just a little bit obsessed with studying the heavenly book. Moreover, only one person can ascend to the ascension platform, no matter who passes, the two of them will eventually separate. After hesitating for a long time, he still chose to tell Zhou Yingxia, and told her bluntly that he hoped she would not go to the ascension platform. Because there were too many people. But Zhou Yingxia rejected Feng Qingyang without hesitation. She even said clearly that she came to the spirit world just to make a further step on the immortal path. She even used her relationship with him to make Nanggong Tingfen take them to the spirit world at all costs. To use Zhou Yingxia's heartless words, Feng Qingyang, without Nanggong Tingfen by your side, who are you? Feng Qingyang endured it at the time. But now, he was more disappointed. He didn't believe that Zhou Yingxia didn't recognize Zuyun. But when I think about it, I feel relieved. He and Zhou Yingxia are not from the same world. What's the use of keeping me in the Dan formation stage? It's better to go and see Zuyun, that was obviously him just now. Feng Qingyang looked into the distance, then used his wind spirit power to squeeze out of the crowd. But he didn't know. In Tianwaishan, the power of wind spirit is exclusive to Sword Valley. As soon as he moved, Feng Zhen discovered him. Elixir formation period. The disciples of Sword Valley are not allowed to go out until they reach the nascent soul stage, and can only practice and do things in the valley. Catch up and take a look. Feng Zhen immediately remembered what Feng and he had told him. The Taoist couple and his son are both in the land of Juyue. Nowadays, the place is crowded, at least 30% of them are from there. It is not difficult to guarantee that the other party has also heard the news, so they rush over to join in the fun. If we catch him, I won't be able to find Feng and he. If you dare to steal my sword, then I will kill you. Feng Zhen smiled ferociously, looking at the nascent soul stage next to him, and quietly followed him out of the crowd. He searched all over the world but could not find the sword. He had no idea that the sword was actually in the Sword Valley. If he can pass the test of the Immortal Ascension platform, then that's it. After all, he has ascended to the immortal realm, and he doesn't bother to care about such mundane matters. But if it doesn't pass, Feng Zhen is ready to go all out to find Feng and he. With his current state, except for those old monsters who have passed through the tribulation period, there are almost no one who can match him. After recovering his thoughts, he turned his attention to the immortal platform again. Almost fully formed. Outside the crowd, Zuyun's spiritual power was out of control at all and leaking out crazily. The 24 lotus hearts were constantly glowing with golden light, but they couldn't stop it. Zuyun smiled bitterly in his heart. He just wanted to know what the mystery of this immortal platform was, but he was warned inexplicably by that voice. Is it possible that this Xianxia terrace is also a conspiracy? After all, the 5 elements of Chaos Sutra is 99% certain to be a conspiracy. Just when he was about to fall to the ground, a figure suddenly jumped out from the crowd. The figure's speed was very slow, but when he flicked his sleeves and used a natal spiritual weapon, his speed suddenly increased. Moreover, it was still flying towards him. Zuyun couldn't help but be stunned. Shuttle. Isn't this the shuttle that Feng Qingyang took back from his hand? The speed of the shuttle was much faster, and I finally caught Zuyun when he landed. Zuyun, why are you flying so high? There were many monks who flew up before, but were blown to pieces by golden thunder. Feng Qingyang was a little nervous. He was afraid that Zuyun would be angry with him because of the incident in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven, so he changed the subject. Sure enough, Zuyun's face was stunned, and he couldn't help but said in shock, "You mean, someone was killed by the bombardment?" He still remembered the voices in his head. The voice said that if he did it again, his soul would be gone. But the point is, the 5 spiritual roots are mentioned. Yes, not long before you came, only half an hour at most. Feng Qingyang thought for a while and said. After all, when Zuyun came, everyone could see clearly, and Feng Qingyang was no exception. However, most people don't remember Zuyun very well, and when it comes to the stage of transcending the tribulation, neither Chen Tianqiao, nor the Zhang Master and the Dragon Demon Emperor are here. This is why Zuyun dared to come and take a look. You take me there first. Zuyun lay on the shuttle and pointed to a mountain in the distance. The spiritual power on that mountaintop was a little weak for some reason, and there was probably no one else there. Good. Feng Qingyang didn't talk nonsense, and used the shuttle to send Zuyun up. Zuyun leaned up and said, "Are you alone? Where are Demon Lord and Xianxia?" Feng Qingyang suddenly looked gloomy and said, "My mother stayed in the Juyu land, she was injured. Xianxia, ever since I got the Book of Heaven, I have become a demon, and it is even more so after knowing this ascending immortal platform. I am in the period of forming a pill. And it is impossible to seize the position of immortality. I happened to see you falling, so I rushed to pick you up." "I see," Zuyun nodded and asked, "What about your father? Didn't he go find you?" "My dad?" Feng Qinjiang's eyes lit up and said, "My father has also come to the spirit world. By the way, when my father separated from us, he said that he would come to the spirit world with you. Since you are here, you must be in the spirit world. It's over. Where is my dad?" He suddenly remembered it and asked quickly. During these days in Juyu land, Nangong Tingfeng was most worried about Feng and he. "Since your father didn't look for you, he was in Sword Valley." Zuyun curled his lips and simply told Feng Qingyang what happened at that time. Feng Qingyang immediately lowered his head. Unexpectedly, Zuyun was almost sold. "Okay, I found out later that the sword body your father was talking about was not me. I almost misunderstood him." Zuyun smiled, but Feng Qinjiang's head was lowered. Because he knew that the sword body belonged to Sun Qiniang and was Zuyun's beauty. "It's okay. Let's see what this Xianxian terrace is before we go to Sword Valley to find your father. Since there are many people here, I think many people came to Sword Valley. It was just empty at that time. With your shuttle, maybe you can go in and take a look." Zuyun has perfected the 5 elements transformation technique, and has reached the stage of divine transformation, so he is naturally very courageous. But as soon as the words fell, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the two of them, and said with disdain, "Dare to break into my Sword Valley? Let's see if you have the ability." Similarly, the words of the nascent soul stage were not finished. After discovering that Zuyun was actually in the spiritual transformation stage, he swallowed the word matter back into his stomach. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 913. Chaos Sword. The chaos power in Zhu Yun's body was still fading, and almost all the spells he could use could not be used. Then there is only the chaos sword. He made a decision immediately, not caring whether the people in the Sword Valley could see the magic of the chaos sword, so he immediately called out, wielded the sword from afar, and placed the chaos sword on his neck. Senior, this is a misunderstanding. The nascent soul stage fell to his knees directly. He was frightened by Zhu Yun's state, but he did not notice that Zhu Yun's situation was extremely bad at this time. The main reason is that the monks in Sword Valley only rely on sword refining and don't have much ability. Feeling the layers of sword energy revealed on the chaos sword, the nascent soul stage did not dare to let out a single breath. Zhu Yun had a plan in his heart. With a thought, he let the chaos sword hit the opponent's back of the head hard and hit him directly. He was knocked unconscious. This is someone from Sword Valley. Looking at the frightened Feng Qingyang, Zhu Yun said calmly. If this were an ordinary monk, I am afraid that it would not be so easy to pass today. Zhu Yun, what state are you in now? Feng Qingyang opened his mouth. He had not been in the spirit world for long. How could Zhu Yun have reached the stage of becoming a god? The stage of transformation. Zhu Yun smiled slightly, and then said, the people in Sword Valley must have discovered your wind spirit power, and they brought murderous intent as soon as they came up. I'm afraid your father is in a bad situation. What should we do? Feng Qingyang became even more panicked. There's no rush, Zhu Yun thought for a moment and said, the spiritual power in my body is still dissipating. Even if I break into the Sword Valley, I probably won't be able to do anything if I encounter danger. And I don't know what's going on in the Sword Valley now. I'd better wait. Let's talk about it later. Zhu Yun knew that he could only cope with the next thing after he recovered. After thinking for a while, he said, since you don't want to participate in the Immortal Ascension platform, then just stay here and I will heal your injuries. It will be fine in a while. How about that? Well, Feng Qingyang had no choice. Now he could not even hold on to the pressure of spiritual energy. If he did not have the shuttle in his hand, he would not be able to move even an inch. Faced with Zhu Yun's request, he naturally agreed readily. Then wait a moment. Zhu Yun found a cave in this mountain, took out the spirit stones and set up a 9-turn 9-yang formation. Thinking that Feng Qingyang would not be too suspicious, and his strength could not affect him, Zhu Yun was in the formation and directly entered the immortal mansion. After sharing his plan with the incarnation in the Dazhu glazed mirror, the incarnation left the immortal mansion instead of Zhu Yun, while Zhu Yun stayed in the immortal mansion, sitting on the edge of the void, and began to refining the void crazily. The power of chaos in it. The incarnation appeared, picked up the glass mirror on the ground, stuffed it into his arms, and then walked out of the formation. Back and forth, it takes less than a cup of tea. But in Feng Qingyang's view, it was shocking. Although he couldn't see through Zhu Yun's realm, he could still feel the difference between before and after. Zhu Yun's spiritual power collapsed, and his momentum was not obvious. Even when Feng Qingyang just caught it, he didn't notice Zhu Yun's state. But at this time, what the incarnation presented was a peak stage of divine transformation. It felt like it was automatic without wind, and the pressure also came with it. Zhu Yun, are you okay? Well, I'm fine. Now let's just wait and see the immortal platform. The avatar is almost no different from Zhu Yun. But this is only for Feng Qingyang. In the back mountain of Five Elements sect, the ancestor suddenly opened his eyes. Someone actually collected the 5 series of spiritual beads and successfully practiced the 5 elements incarnation technique, which will unite these 5 incarnations. But, why is he in Tianwei? The ancestor's face was filled with disbelief. He has the 5 series spirit beads. But he never thought about practicing. Because he felt that this incarnation had little effect on him. Therefore, no one in the sect practices this method. So, this person who practices the 5 elements incarnation technique. Where did it come from? Is it a casual cultivator? The 5 elements of Chaos Sutra has been left behind in several mortal realms, so that the 5 spiritual roots in the mortal realm can also have the opportunity to practice. Could it be that they just came from the mortal realm? No, it's impossible. This is a technique for the divine transformation stage. How can anyone master it right away? Then he came from the mortal world, hid in the outer world, and just came out after practicing this method. A bright light flashed in the ancestor's eyes. It just so happens that I lack a natal spiritual weapon. If I use these 5 incarnations as the base material and completely refine it, maybe, I can refine the chaos hammer that was once circulated in the section. By then, if another disaster is caused, what else is there to fear? The ancestor stood up, and then disappeared out of thin air. The spiritual world is far north. A dark place. Hey, that old guy actually wants to go to Tianwei? Then I, Yuan, finally have something to do. He touched a delicate little hammer in his hand, but his body was also missing. Deep in the 9 Netherlands. A dry tomb suddenly cracked, and a withered corpse crawled out of it. GGG, the 5 Elements sect wants to get involved in the Immortal platform. It's interesting. Then I, a living dead, can join in the fun. In various inaccessible and dangerous places in the spiritual world continent, people started to move one after another. Their goals are all in the sky. Who would have thought that changes would occur at the Ascension platform this time? The incarnation glanced at the ascending immortal platform. He and Zuyun's soul connection was disconnected when he left the world of the universe. However, the temperament is the same. This nascent soul stage of Sword Valley is what they need to go to Sword Valley to find someone next. So, the avatar stepped forward, stretched out his hand and tapped him a few times. In the nascent soul stage, he was in a coma and his spiritual power was sealed. Even if he woke up, he could no longer move. Okay, now let's just watch the show. There was a smile on the face of the avatar, no different from Zuyun. Feng Qingyang couldn't tell the truth from the false and stood aside without saying anything. As time went by, Xianxia finally became an immortal. I saw that the highest position suddenly bloomed with golden light. Thousands of golden lights illuminate every person at the bottom of the valley from top to bottom. The crowd is so excited that those who are hit by the golden light will immediately disappear where they are. Then, he appeared on the platform paved with gold bricks below. The platform is connected to the high platform, and there is a trail that rotates up like a ladder to the sky. The first person to appear on the platform rushed towards the steps like crazy. They all want to be the first to get the upper hand. But no one knows that every step of the trail is a test. Feng Zhen just took one step, and his figure seemed to be in trance, standing still. Xianxia, on the other hand, didn't seem to be affected in any way. With flames all over her body, she rushed straight up dozens of steps. Some other monks are either fast or slow. The incarnation uses the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, and can roughly recognize the realm of these people. The lower the realm, the higher one climbs. But he also knew that this immortal platform could never be that simple. Soon, a figure wearing coarse linen clothes attracted his attention. Even though he was an incarnation, he couldn't help but scream. "Aunt Tang." That's right, that was Tang Liwen. Unexpectedly, she would also come to this immortal platform. Zuyun had been away from Tianwei for half a year and had no idea what Tang Liwen had gone through. In other words, I don't know what Tian Weishan has experienced. In the past 6 months, the news of the ascension to Immortal platform has spread a lot, and Tang Liwen naturally does not want to stick to her own formation that is difficult to make progress. Not to mention, at her nascent soul stage, she couldn't withstand the pressure of the spiritual energy here. You know, when she was washing clothes for Zhangdao Venerable would always hold her under his arm wherever she went. Tang Liwen had had enough. This is her only chance to escape her misery. Because she doesn't know when she will be captured by the Zhangdao master again. I originally wanted to ask her what she understands about the 24 constellations. That's fine, it's really difficult to prove the Tao with an array. The incarnation can only send blessings in my heart. After a moment, Zuyun was surprised to find that Tang Liwen had rushed to the front. It was as if every step had no effect on her. On the other hand, Xianxia had stopped and remained motionless for a long time. There was even a painful expression on her face, and the flames on her body were erratic and might go out at any time. Feng Zhen walked 3 steps, and finally he was not the one staying at the end. Behind him, there were several people. The incarnation can see that those people are in the Mahayana stage. Persevere in the Mahayana stage, practice to the tribulation stage, and then trigger the heavenly tribulation to ascend by yourself. You have to come to this immortal ascension platform. The avatar shook his head secretly. Several hours passed quickly. Under this golden light, it is as bright as day. There is no one at the bottom of the valley, because all the monks within range below will be sucked to the golden platform. Anyone outside the scope is a spectator. Even if you enter it at this time, it will not trigger the ascending immortal platform. On the ladder that reaches the sky, the fastest person has already reached halfway, and it is Tang Liwen. The slow ones didn't stay where they were, and the ones who walked at least walked dozens of steps. The most surprising thing was the monks who were eliminated. There are people in all realms. At the same time, there are humans and demons. They are all different, but they have one thing in common. They all fell asleep and lay on the golden platform. It's interesting. After being eliminated, your mind will be affected and you will be teleported directly. Is it a space spell? The avatar thought to himself. This is still good for him. For example, if Feng Zhen was eliminated, he would naturally be in a coma here, which would not affect their journey to the Feng family in Sword Valley at all. The wind is high and the night is dark. It's easy to do things. The wind is clear. It's time for us to go. Zuyun looked at the sky. Under the golden light, the full moon was looming. Are you leaving now? Feng Qingyang looked away. He couldn't see clearly, but he thought it was all amazing. You see, the fastest people are already more than halfway there. It will be over in a few hours at most. When all the Shifeng family returns to Sword Valley, how will we find your father? Feng Qingyang knew what Zuyun meant. Even though he was reluctant to give up, he also knew that it was important to save people. But just as the incarnation stirred up the unconscious nascent soul stage from the air, a terrifying pressure suddenly appeared on the mountain peak, and the target was directed at the incarnation. Chaos power. People from the 5 elements sect. Overcoming the tribulation period. The avatar's face changed drastically because he couldn't move at all. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 914. Not only the incarnation, but also Feng Qingyang was pressed against the stone surface by this pressure, and the side of his face was bleeding. Boy, I didn't expect it to be you. The ancestor appeared and was slightly startled when he saw Zuyun. At that time, on the edge of the wild sea, the ancestor had a meeting with the Zhangdao Venerable and glanced at Zuyun, but at that time, Zuyun used his lotus heart to transform all the chaos power into wind spirit power, and it didn't attract the ancestor's attention. Upon seeing this, The ancestor was naturally a little surprised, and at the same time he also figured out that Zuyun obviously wanted to hide his spiritual roots. Senior, what does this mean? The avatar spoke with difficulty. What do you mean? The ancestor laughed and said, boy, I didn't expect you to have 5 spiritual roots. I didn't expect you to practice the 5 elements incarnation technique. Moreover, you can also combine 5 incarnations into one. Senior, I'm just a little lucky. The incarnation's eyes flashed, and he didn't know what the ancestor wanted, so he opened his mouth with the intention of begging for mercy. But how did he know that the ancestor came here just for this incarnation? Good boy, the ancestor was overjoyed. He was obviously calling Zuyun, but he seemed to be talking to himself. Your body is still in the dirty thing, right? Then this incarnation is just for me. Hearing this, the incarnation was suddenly startled. This is the person who came with bad intentions. It stands to reason that the people of the 5 Elements sect must want to accept monks with 5 spiritual roots into the sect, but this ancestor came here for the incarnation. If I had known earlier, I would not have allowed the incarnation to come out. It was too late to regret. I saw the ancestor murmuring words, and the pressure of spiritual power gradually transformed into the 5 colors of the 5 elements, winding towards the incarnation. The incarnation was shocked. These 5 kinds of spiritual power went straight towards his internal organs, obviously trying to control the spirit bead and then control his body. But he couldn't resist the overwhelming pressure, so he could only let the 5 colors get into the 5 spirit beads. But what I didn't expect was that there was a loud sound in the sky. A huge hammer appeared out of thin air and hit the ancestor hard. Old man, Tian is not a place for you to come. The sound is like thunder and the hammer is like thunderbolt. The 5-color spiritual power was suddenly annihilated under the thunderous power of the huge hammer. Not only that, the pressure on the incarnation suddenly disappeared. Can move. The incarnation dared to stay here, and even used the thunder escape technique to escape into the distance. The reason why I didn't use the power of chaos to teleport was because I was afraid that the monk who wielded the hammer would be angry with him, who also had 5 spiritual roots. The incarnation flashed to another hilltop and found that no one paid attention to him. He breathed a sigh of relief and turned around to see that the hammer was already fighting with the ancestor. Yayuan. The ancestor was also extremely surprised by the appearance of these people, and couldn't help roaring, I came to Tianwei, and I didn't do anything harmful to heaven and earth. Do you, the Ye family, really think that you are so overbearing? Ha ha ha, a figure suddenly appeared from behind the hammer, smiling up at the sky. Yes, my Ye family is so domineering. How can you bear with me? Yayuan, your father is not here, and you are a young boy holding a fake chaos hammer. Do you really think I am afraid of you? The ancestor was furious, but the incarnation was extremely surprised. Chaos hammer. Isn't that Ye Yang's natal magical weapon? And this Yayuan also has the surname Ye. Although this chaos hammer is fake, then this Yayuan must be the descendant of Ye Yang. He, Yayuan smiled evilly and said, my father is not here, but before he left, he passed on the essence of the chaos hammer technique to me. It may not be easy to deal with others, but to deal with your 5 elements sect there are more than enough people. While speaking, Yayuan suddenly raised his hammer, and countless purple thunder suddenly fell from the sky. These thunderbolts all hit the hammer and submerged into it. This is very similar to the scene where Zuyun uses the chaos sword to condense the power of thunder. 5 elements Sanren, my father didn't hit you to death with a hammer, but let you run away. But during the critical period of his and my mother's ascension, he had no time to care about you, and instead left the matter to me. I think he also followed. Did you say that as long as you don't set foot in the outer world and don't do other things that harm the heavens, you will be allowed to practice and ascend? You have committed a serious crime. Today, I will destroy you on behalf of my father. As soon as the words fell, the giant hammer slammed down, and countless thunder snakes roared, causing the world to change, and even affecting the immortal ascension platform in the distance. What a terrifying power! The avatar's expression changed drastically, and when he was about to retreat further, he saw Feng Qingyang flying towards here on a shuttle, like a lone sail on the sea in a violent storm. This boy, even if he gave up the immortal platform earlier, he wanted to save my life. I should save his life too. With the thought, he transformed the power of chaos into the power of wind spirit, leading the shuttle to him. Thank you, Senior Zhu. Feng Qingyang was breathing heavily. Although Ye Yuan's thunder was not directed at him, the difference in level and momentum alone made him extremely uncomfortable. It's not suitable to stay here for a long time, let's leave first. The incarnation stepped on the shuttle, took over the control of the shuttle, and then used the wind's spiritual power to leave Tianweishan as soon as possible. But who would have thought that at this time, the giant hammer had already collided with the magical power of the five elements Sanren, and the loud noise with the power of the sky sent them flying directly. If the shuttle wasn't controlled by the avatar, I'm afraid Feng Qingyang would have died immediately. But despite this, Feng Qingyang also fainted, and the incarnation was also shaken by the huge force, and spit out blood. Run, run. The incarnation had only one thought in his mind at this time. The blood in his body was surging, and his soul was also affected by the shock. He had a feeling that he might faint at any time. So before that, leave here as soon as possible. It's not that he didn't think about hiding in the immortal mansion. But the problem is that the two tribulation stage here are very likely to find the Daoliuli mirror left here. The incarnation was fleeing, but the battle here was getting more and more intense. Ha ha ha, Ye Yuan, what do you mean by getting the essence of your father? Compared with your father, your hammer method is much less sharp. Could it be that you got the true teachings of your mother? The five elements wanderer found that he could easily respond to the amazing hammer blow, and couldn't help but sneer, but the chaotic power in his hand never stopped. He used various spells at will. He dealt with the giant hammer with one hand and took the opportunity to attack Ye Yuan with the other hand. Five elements wanderer, you are just good at talking. My father told me a long time ago that if I have a battle with you, I must not be angered by your words. Your father can still say this? It should be your mother who said it, right? He, that's right, your mother is not a human, she is a monster. By the way, I remember that your mother was hit by my chaos hammer when she was crossing the monster calamity. Now think about it, she should not have ascended to heaven, right? Otherwise, even if she went to the fairyland, she could not become a fairy, but your father's beast pet. Humph, you can't provoke me. Anyway, you must die. Ye Yuan's expression was unmoved. He was flashing with lightning all over his body, like the god of thunder. Those thunders were constantly drawn to the hammer, and then Ye Yuan smashed it down. After a moment, an old man in black suddenly appeared beside Ye Yuan. Little Ye, you're here to beat this guy too. The old man in black seemed to be familiar with Ye Yuan. Uncle Mo, my father left a message that Wu Xing Sanren has committed a taboo, and I'm going to beat him to death here. Oh? Did your father say that? Sorry to bother you. A black shadow flashed by, and instantly disappeared from the spot, and then appeared on another hilltop, with his hands on his hips, as if watching a show. A moment later, another person appeared. I was wondering who dared to fight next to the ascension platform, it turned out to be you, little Ye. Why, your father beat Wu Xing Sanren that year, and you want to beat him again. Uncle Bai, I'll reminisce with you later. Good. A white shadow flashed by, and appeared beside the old man in black and stood still. After half an hour, many powerful people came to greet Ye Yuan, and it seemed that they had a very good relationship. The mountain next to him was already full of people. And Wu Xing Sanren also discovered a terrifying thing. His own chaos power began to weaken, but Ye Yuan was getting braver and braver. If this continues, he will probably be exhausted first. And the most important thing is that there are more than 10 tribulation stage people on the mountain, and each of them has more or less hatred with him. If they also intervene, I am afraid that I will die in the world. For a moment, Wuxing Sanren was actually a little scared. I already know that kid, and he can't run away. As long as the Green Mountains are there, there is no fear of running out of firewood. It was only near the ascension platform that I dared to go all out. Now, I can only run first, leaving him alone, and Ye Yuan dare not chase him with all his strength. A flash of lightning suddenly flashed across Wuxing Sanren's body, and he actually wanted to use the thunder escape technique. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 915. Want to run? Can you run? Ye Yuan smiled contemptuously and threw the hammer back. It was clearly the fake chaos hammer mentioned by Wuxing Sanren, but it was as powerful as destroying the world. Boom! The hammer did not fly towards Wuxing Sanren, but directly hit the entire mountain. A loud bang, like the collapse of the sky. The entire mountain was shaking, with countless cracks, and rubble rolling down, resounding through the world. Even the cultivators who were breaking into the ascension platform seemed to be awakened and looked over here. This kind of power, I'm afraid that immortals are no more than this. And the few tribulation stage guarding other hills were also frightened and pale. They are all in the tribulation stage, why is the gap so big? Not to mention that they are in the tribulation stage of transcendent power. As soon as Wuxing Sanren's figure appeared, he was covered in dust and looked terrified. Ye Yuan, how can you determine my location? The reason why he didn't use teleportation was because he was afraid that Ye Yuan would guess his exact location, so he used the thunder escape technique. Because even he himself didn't know where the thunder escape technique would go. But he didn't expect that the movement caused by Ye Yuan's hammer would actually include him. Ha ha ha, Ye Yuan laughed wildly and said, Wuxing Sanren, my father knew that there would be an escape technique using thunder spirit power in the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra, so he made this immortal thunder hammer. As long as the lightning reaches, there is nothing to hide under the immortal thunder hammer. Wuxing Sanren was shocked and angry. He thought that this hammer was so similar to his own magic weapon Chaos Hammer back then, and it must be a copy made by Ye Yang. But he didn't expect that it was only similar in appearance. Miscalculated. Ye Yang, I didn't expect that you would let the younger generation plot against me after you ascended to become an immortal. I will never forgive you. Wuxing Sanren's chest was like a raging fire, he looked up to the sky and roared, and decided to go all out. Is it the ascension platform? Watch me draw the immortal power here. The worst that can happen is that both sides will suffer. While Ye Yuan was still playing cat and mouse, Wuxing Sanren endured the injuries on his body and rushed towards the ascension platform. Chaos Palm. When there were still a few miles away from the ascension platform, Wuxing Sanren condensed the chaos power of his whole body and slapped the ascension platform across the void. How terrifying is the spiritual power of the tribulation stage. Not to mention, it is the tribulation stage with 5 spiritual roots. And the chaos palm will completely drain the chaos power in a cultivator's body, and can cross the level to fight the enemy. It is no exaggeration to say that if there is an immortal here, if he encounters this chaos palm, he will have to retreat and temporarily avoid the edge. No, this old guy is crazy. Seeing Wuxing Sanren's actions, all the tribulation stages were shocked. The ascension platform is something from the immortal realm. Aren't you afraid of being blamed by the immortals in the upper realm and being punished by heaven for your actions? But how could they know that Wuxing Sanren had long suspected that all the people who ascended to the 5 Elements sect were dead? Anyway, he might die if he went up, so he might as well drag you down with him in the lower realm. And the biggest hatred came from Ye Yang. Ye Yang, who had made him suffer so much. Originally, he thought that Ye Yang had ascended to the immortal realm, and with his strength, he could do whatever he wanted in the entire spiritual world. He didn't do that, because he only wanted to strengthen his own strength, and his eyes had long been on the upper realm. But he never thought that the son left by Ye Yang not only reached the tribulation crossing stage, but also stayed in the lower realm with a mission. In this case, I will kill your descendants. Then, let the entire spiritual world be buried with me. This is exactly what Wuxing Sanren is thinking now. Boom. The cultivators on the ascension platform thought that they had seen the immortal thunder hammer strike like an immortal before, and this chaos palm made them feel that this was an immortal's all-out strike. Their faces changed drastically, and they wanted to escape from the ascension platform. But this ascension platform, can you come and go as you please? So, they could only watch as the huge blue-gray palm slammed on the rotating ladder of the ascension platform. Crack! The ladder broke in the middle. The immortals under the break fell from the sky, with golden light on their bodies, but their faces were extremely painful. The cultivators on the ladder were not affected for the time being, including Tang Liwen. However, Tang Liwen seemed to have no idea what happened. At this time, she was only a few steps away from the top of the ascension platform. The cultivator who passed the test this time. Is it her? But at this time, no one paid attention to this place. The eyes of those who crossed the tribulation period were all below the ascension platform. The cultivator who fell with golden light soon lost his life. It was obvious that after the immortal ascension platform was hit by the five elements wanderer, the immortal power inside lost control and broke into the cultivator's body. Almost every cultivator who died of bleeding from all 7 orifices. The nascent soul could not leave the body, the soul could not leave the body, and the clone could not save his life. The lucky ones were only the cultivators who were eliminated early and fell asleep on the platform below, and those who were still climbing hard, such as Tang Liwen. But no one knew what was waiting for them. Damn it, the five elements wanderer actually attacked the ascension platform. The black-robed old man appeared beside Ye Yuan, his voice trembling. Uncle Demon, now that things have come to this, I'm afraid we can only work together to kill the five elements wanderer. I don't know if this action will attract the punishment of the immortal. That's right, if he takes his anger out on us, I'm afraid we will have no hope of ascending. The old man in white also appeared out of thin air. I have a method, what do you think? This time, a female cultivator appeared. What method? Everyone looked over. The female cultivator's beautiful eyes sparkled, and she said with a radiant look, trigger the heavenly tribulation. Maybe we can take advantage of this to trigger the heavenly tribulation, and the fairy thunder will descend, and maybe we can restrain the scattered fairy power of the ascension platform. Everyone looked at the ascension platform again. The fairy power under the fracture began to overflow, and the cultivator sleeping on the platform could not escape the disaster, and lost his life in a coma. It can only be like this. I don't know why the news of the ascension platform leaked out this time, so many cultivators will come. Maybe, after this incident, the spirit world will be reshuffled. I'm afraid, we won't see it. Yes, ascend, I don't know what it will be like after ascending. These are all powerful cultivators who are hidden from the world. Before the tribulation period, they want to ascend very much. But when they could trigger the immortal tribulation and ascend at any time, they began to worry about gains and losses. They knew too little about the immortal world. So they all persuaded themselves to make the final preparations. Right now, if they didn't leave, they might attract the wrath of the immortals, and then it would be impossible to leave. Then trigger the heavenly tribulation. The old man in black was like a ghost, and suddenly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in the sky. Ha! He suddenly shouted, and the spiritual power in his body condensed into a line, which gushed out from the top of his head and then rushed to the sky. "Old demon, I'm here too. You are black and white, and you have been fighting for a lifetime, but you didn't expect to be able to survive the heavenly tribulation together." The old man in white appeared beside the old man in black robe, smiled heartily, and his withered fingers were like butterflies flying through flowers. But pure and incomparable spiritual power gushed out from his fingers, and then condensed into one, and also rushed to the sky. Then, the female cultivator, and a group of cultivators dressed in different clothes. More than 20 cultivators in the tribulation crossing stage actually stood in a row in the air. Boom! A moment later, thunder fell from the sky. The heavenly tribulation is coming. But the ascension platform seemed to be unaffected at all, as if the golden light of the ascension platform and the golden thunder were not from the same fairyland at all. The plans of these cultivators failed, but they had no way out and could only force the heavenly tribulation. After this tribulation, they will ascend to heaven in broad daylight. If they cannot pass this tribulation, they will be reduced to ashes. Ha ha ha, cultivating immortals is against the will of heaven. If I don't die today, I will live forever. The old man in black robe suddenly laughed wildly, and instead raised his palm to the sky, blasting out a black air in the sky to meet the golden thunder that was coming down. That's right, since I set foot on the immortal path, I have believed that my fate is in my own hands. The worst that can happen is death. I'm tired of this mortal world and this spiritual world. Hee, Ye Yang still owes me 300 spirit stones. If he doesn't pay me back, I'll grab his wife and make her wash a pair of socks for me. A group of people in the tribulation crossing period were talking nonsense, but only Ye Yuan, holding a hammer, stared at the five elements wanderer. If he doesn't die, I can't cross the heavenly tribulation. This is what my father said. Ye Yuan, if you don't attract the heavenly tribulation again, this ascension platform will deal with you later. The five elements wanderer has no chaos power, but he can still laugh, which makes Ye Yuan feel that the five elements wanderer has his own backup. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 916. You're not dead yet, why should I survive the catastrophe? Ye Yuan's face was calm, but his heart was extremely cautious. Hey, I won't die even if you die. Do you know how much preparation I have made over the years? After saying that, Wu Xing San Kui took out a handful of pills from his pocket and stuffed them all into his mouth. After a while, looking at the five elements Sanren who were almost dying, their auras surged again. What kind of elixir is this that can be so magical? Ye Yuan was shocked. He knew that the chaos palm of the five elements of Chaos Sutra would extract all the chaos power, and the user would be weak for a long time after using it. Even if there is a panacea, recovery cannot be quick. Therefore, in his eyes, the five elements San people are no different from dead people. I just didn't expect that his pill. If with this elixir, he keeps using Chaos Palm to deal with himself, then I'm afraid I will be the only one who dies. Thinking of this, a light flashed in Ye Yuan's eyes. He ignored the people behind him who were carrying the golden tribulation thunder, and even ignored the half-ruined immortal ascension platform not far behind the five elements Sanren. He immediately swung the immortal thunder hammer and smashed it towards the five elements Sanren. Past. I have a hammer that can destroy the sky and the earth. Once the immortal thunder comes out, everything in the lower world will be dead. Ye Yuan roared angrily, and the thunder immortal hammer glowed with a purple halo and began to absorb the thunder spirit power in the air. What's even more surprising is that the hammer actually absorbed the golden lightning that struck down. Wishes of golden threads came towards the hammer and quickly disappeared into the hammer. Buzz. Buzz. Buzz buzz. The voice was brisk yet shocking. At this moment, even Ye Yuan was a little confused. But I never felt an extremely powerful force. There has never been a thunder hammer. He had never felt it with his father either. Perhaps, he has never seen the entire mortal world. Can it really destroy the world? This hammering technique taught by my father is amazing. Ye Yuan sighed in his heart, and then hit the five elements Sanren heavily with the hammer. Boom! The five elements scattered people did not escape at all, and were hit straight to the ground by the hammer. At the same time, the golden thunder turned and blasted towards the immortal platform. This is. But in the blink of an eye, the golden thunder and the golden light of the Xianxia platform were intertwined, and an extremely dazzling light burst out. Boom! The platform below the immortal stage exploded with a bang. Countless golden lights quickly engulfed the power of golden thunder. At the same time, angry sounds sounded in the air. Ants from the lower realm. I gave you a shortcut to ascend to immortality, but I didn't expect that you would try to destroy this immortal platform. You are seeking death. The extremely furious voice came towards Ye Yuan with endless golden light. Ye Yuan was shocked and quickly recalled the hammer to block it in front of him. Wherever the light goes, he has nowhere to retreat. Boom! The golden light from the ascending immortal platform directly blasted Ye Yang into a group of monks who were overcoming the tribulation. Eh? Someone is going through the tribulation near the immortal platform. Aren't you afraid of causing chaos in the immortal power? Humph! You are lucky, if you survive the tribulation, don't let me meet you in the immortal world. Fortunately, this time, a monk who practices a different way finally appears. There was no hesitation in this voice at all, or he was talking to himself after seeing most of the monks dead. And the different way he spoke of was naturally Tang Liwen. Tang Liwen practices the formation Dao. It's time to go back. If Huang Mingxing hadn't been so biased and secretly lured some people here without being discovered by other forces, I wouldn't have been willing to come here to do this job. The fairy world is often classified according to the black and yellow colors of heaven and earth. This yellow star is a yellow level star, the lowest level in the world. Ye Yuan, why are you here too? Amidst the roar of golden thunder, the old man in black robe couldn't help but be surprised when he saw Ye Yuan vomiting blood. When Ye Yuan comes in, Tiandao will feel that there are more people to overcome the tribulation, so he will increase the intensity of the thunder tribulation. But, Ye Yuan couldn't help much. It is equivalent to invisibly increasing their pressure. I don't want to either, then the immortal platform. Ye Yuan smiled bitterly, forced himself to stand in the void, and pointed in the direction of the ascension platform, but in an instant, he was dumbfounded. Because the Xianxia terrace is gone. The scattered golden light rushed towards them. No, the revenge of Xianxiande is coming. Ye Yuan was shocked. If he faced the disaster by himself, it wouldn't be a big deal at all. He has the method taught by his father, and heavenly tribulations and the like are completely out of the question. However, he needed to deal with the five elements San people, so he stayed in Tianwei. Otherwise, I would have been promoted with Ye Yang back then. But now, he was injured by the immortal power, and he was in the midst of a thunderstorm, and he also attracted the immortal power from the ascending immortal platform. I'm afraid. Uncles and aunts, I'm sorry, I'm leaving right away. Ye Yuan didn't wait for everyone to react, then used his magical power, and the small hammer appeared out of thin air in his hand. Looking closer at the original location of the immortal ascension platform, the thunder immortal hammer was gone. I have a hammer that can absorb the thunder of the world. Come with me, thunder immortal hammer. Ye Yuan shouted in a low voice, and in a flash, he broke through the thunder formation and faced the incoming golden light. This golden light is undoubtedly the remaining immortal power of Xianxian platform. What about the immortal power? My father dared to question the way of heaven back then. It's nothing for me, Yayuan, to bear this immortal power. Thunder Immortal Hammer. My father gave you this name, so let's see if you dare to hit the immortal power. After the voice fell, Yayuan swung the Thunder Immortal Hammer at the attacking immortal power. Boom! 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 The Thunder Immortal Hammer smashed down, but it was like throwing it into a pool of abyss, without raising any waves at all, and did not delay the immortal power at all. Yayuan laughed. No one knew what he was laughing at. Until all the immortal power hit his body. But who could imagine that the immortal power seemed to be blocked by a huge wall? One man guards the pass, and 10,000 men cannot open it. Is this the case? How can the body of a cultivator block the immortal power of the upper realm? No one knows why. The power of the ascension platform was blocked by Yayuan in this way. Boom! Over there, several more thunders fell. At this point, all the cultivators had survived 9 heavenly tribulations. The clouds parted and the moon was bright. The tribulation clouds retreated, and thousands of golden lights were sprinkled in the sky. These embarrassed cultivators looked at Yayuan with melancholy. They knew that without Yayuan, they would not be able to block the attacking immortal power. Perhaps, they would not be able to ascend from now on. Yayuan is just like his father, taking pleasure in revenge. Alas, Yayong was famous throughout his life, how could his son end up like this? Yayong values friendship and loyalty, I know his past. Back then, he fought his way to the spirit world from a mortal without spiritual roots just for Qiulinjian. Qiulinjian? This is, the surname of the nine-tailed fox clan, could it be? Don't you know? Yayong's Taoist partner is the nine-tailed fox, and also the guide for Yayong to embark on the immortal path. It's just a pity. We are shrouded in immortal light and can't help that kid. We can only find Yayong as soon as possible after we reach the immortal world. These people slowly rose into the air, as if there was a suction force in the immortal light. At the top of the immortal light, there is a gate in the sky. They will enter the gate in the sky, and then ascend to the immortal world. By the time all these people left, Yayuan had already lost his mind. But the immortal power was also fading, gradually revealing the thunder hammer. If those people were still here, they would be extremely shocked. Because the hammer. It's fine. Almost done. A deep male voice came from the hammer, completely different from Yayuan's. Back in the mortal world, I smashed Chuzhu with one hammer. In the wild sea, I smashed through the isolated continent that spanned the spiritual and mortal worlds. But this Tianwai Tian has never been smashed. He, the ascension platform. With a sarcasm, the hammer suddenly flew out of golden light, and then quickly grew larger. A moment later, the hammer emitted a gray-white spiritual halo, and then smashed down with a bang. Boom! The golden light suddenly faded. The Tianwai Tian floating in the air also fell to the ground suddenly. The mortal world is originally one, why does Tianwai Tian need to be superior? If you continue like this, you will not be able to escape death even if you step into the fairy world. Today, take this opportunity to let Tianwai Tian return to its original position. Another hammer. Boom! Tianwai Shan fell from the sky like a weightless boulder. Countless cultivators who would participate in the ascension platform in the future, or demon cultivators, trembled in every corner. Demon Dragon King, Zhangdao Venerable, or Chen Tianxiao. Until Tianwai Shan fell to the ground. Boom! The sky collapsed, and the earth cracked. At this moment, the Thunder Immortal Hammer seemed to have exhausted all its spiritual power, faded away, and sank into Yayuan's brow, leaving a hammer-shaped mark. Tianwai Shan, the sky has changed. Auras surged, and the mountains shook. The incarnation who was unconscious halfway also woke up because of this change. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 917. Are you okay? The incarnation woke up and looked up at the sky, only to feel that the sky seemed to be a little far away. Beside him was the unconscious Feng Qingyang. Looking at his appearance, he seemed to have been hit hard. Looking again, the shuttle had broken into two pieces. If it weren't for the shuttle, he would have died. But even if he survived, Feng Qingyang looked very bad. At this time, the spiritual power in the air was disordered. The incarnation had the 5 elements of spiritual beads and was extremely sensitive. In addition to the 5 kinds of 5 elements of spiritual power, the turbulence was also mixed with wind and thunder and other spiritual power, as well as spiritual power that he couldn't even recognize. In short, it gave him a feeling of chaos. What's going on? Has the weather changed? The incarnation narrowed his eyes and slowly got up, guessing in his heart. But no matter what, the momentum is gone. Those who should have ascended, and those who failed to cross the tribulation have either died or died. I don't know if Antang has successfully passed the ascension platform. After muttering a few times, the incarnation observed the location. After a closer look, he couldn't help but frowned. There are many strange rocks here, but most of them look like stone swords growing out of the ground. It is somewhat similar to the sword cliff in the spirit sword sect before. Forget it, let the main body come out. My body has also been slightly shaken. I'm afraid that my body will be divided into 5 pieces later. After thinking for a while, the incarnation took advantage of Feng Qinjiang's coma and entered the Dao glass mirror. The mirror appeared out of thin air and fell to the ground, making a crisp sound that spread not far away. Zuyun, how is your recovery? In the great universe, Zuyun heard the incarnation's gentle call. The moment he opened his eyes, he felt surprised again. He found that there seemed to be an inexplicable gap between his and the incarnation's souls. If it is said that before, when the incarnation was in the same universe world or in the immortal palace, their memories would be connected and their thoughts would be consistent. But at this time, he actually needed to take the initiative to explore the incarnation's memory in order to know the thoughts in the incarnation's mind. Not only him, but even the incarnation felt a little surprised. What did you experience outside? Zuyun frowned and asked. Outside. The incarnation thought about it, afraid that he would not be able to explain it clearly, so he simply released the protection on the Yuan Shen. At this time, Zuyun's mind became clear, just like the previous communication. Knowing the drastic changes outside from the incarnation's memory, his face couldn't help but become ugly. Is it like this? He murmured. Yes, if I hadn't been injured, I planned to take Feng Qingyang to find Feng and he. After all, this kid saved my life. Although I wouldn't die without him, I couldn't bear to see him die here. At least send him to his father. This idea is exactly the same as Zuyun's original body. Zuyun nodded and said, then you can heal here, and I will take care of the outside. Fenchen, come here. Zuyun called softly, and a fire shadow came from a distance. After standing in front of Zuyun, it turned into a young man, who seemed to be about the same age as Zuyun. Master. Fenchen looked at Zuyun, and then looked at the incarnation beside him. He could feel that the two men were a little different, but they were both Zuyun. Come out with me, but I don't have the fire spirit pearl on me, so you can only go out in human form. Zuyun thought that he could only let Fenchen follow him, but he didn't expect that Fenchen went straight into Zuyun's lower abdomen. Master, I can hide the spirit fire symbiosis art you practiced anywhere in your body at will, but the fire spirit pearl could make me stronger before, so I stayed in the fire spirit pearl. So that's it? Zuyun suddenly realized, and after saying goodbye to the incarnation, he left the great universe world and appeared in the immortal mansion. But he was not in a hurry to leave, but sat in the immortal mansion. The ascension platform, a group of people in the tribulation period carried the immortal thunder to pass the heavenly tribulation, and the heaven beyond heaven and the sky that the incarnation saw seemed to have become farther away, and Antang actually chose to step into the ascension platform. After Zuyun digested this information one by one, he finally remembered a name. Yaoyuan. The descendants of Senior Yaoyang. I don't know if Lao Shu and the others know about it. Forget it, put it aside for now. Go out and see the situation first. Zuyun stood up and flashed away from the immortal mansion. But when his figure appeared, somewhere in the heaven beyond heaven, the Zhangdao Venerable suddenly retracted his gaze. How did that kid appear in the heaven beyond heaven out of thin air? Originally, the shaking of the heaven beyond heaven also caused him to be wary. He already knew about the rupture of the ascension platform, and he knew that there were many people in the tribulation period who had existed longer than him, and they actually appeared at the same time to pass the tribulation. While thinking about why this was the case, he sensed a trace of Zhangdao's spiritual power that he had planted on Zuyun. I thought that Zuyun had been hiding in the wild sea, and the sea water blocked him from feeling Zuyun. But I didn't expect that he appeared in Tianwai Tian. Dirty thing, are you talking about the boy who wanted to be my apprentice and gave me the dragon stone? The voice of the demon dragon emperor was like a bell. That's right, the Zhangdao Venerable had arrived at the valley of the demon dragon clan in Tianwai Tian. That's right, this kid is very weird, and I don't know if the sudden fall of Tianwai Tian from the sky has anything to do with him. Zhangdao Venerable knew that he had been tricked by Zuyun. The Haligan was not the spiritual root of existence at all. But the more this happens, the happier he becomes. This shows that Zuyun is a smart kid. When he starts cultivating his Zhangdao spiritual power, he may be able to advance faster. You are thinking too much, the dragon demon emperor laughed and said, he is just a kid from the eastern mortal realm, how can he have such ability? The sky is so strange, for people like us, it is not a normal thing. What a good thing. Look, the territory of Tianwaishan and the Five Elements sect have merged into one, and the Five Elements sect has also died, and their souls have disappeared. But then again, Yaoyuan turned out to be Yaoyang's son, it's quite suspicious. As soon as he mentioned Yaoyuan, the Zhangdao Venerable looked extremely ugly and said, Old Long, don't mention Yaoyang. He is an overbearing and unreasonable guy. I didn't expect that he ascended but left a backhand in the spiritual world. What I didn't expect was that there were also a group of immortals who were in the tribulation period. I thought they were all dead, but I was careful not to do anything excessive in the spirit world. Otherwise, who would have known, Yaoyuan will he hit me on the head with his hammer. Dirty thing, you can't blame others for this. Yaoyang kept Yaoyuan, then you can also keep that boy named Zuyun. Since he has appeared, why don't you hurry over and catch him? Well, try that kid's spiritual roots, and then use the spirit cleansing water to wash away his spiritual roots. If he doesn't have his spiritual roots, won't he still have to cultivate your visceral ways? That's right, we should look forward, not backward. As long as I transfer all the dirty roads in my body to that kid, I can ascend like Yaoyang with no spiritual roots. Then, I will let's settle the score with Yaoyang. After the Zhangdao master finished speaking, he said politely to the dragon demon emperor and then disappeared from the spot. After a long time, the dragon demon emperor showed disdain, no spiritual roots? Hey, dirty thing, Yaoyang is not as simple as having no spiritual roots. After saying that, he stood up and walked outside, constantly rubbing a blood-red stone in his hand. This is the dragon-suppressing stone. At the same time, Chen Tianqiao was in his cave, looking extremely ugly. The news we just received, in addition to the shock in the sky, is that all the monks from their sect who participated in the Immortal Ascension platform have no bones left. Among them, there is the Mahayana stage, the integration stage, and the refining stage. In short, his sect with transcendent power had lost tens of thousands of years of foundation in one day. It's not just him. There are other transcendental forces, or first-rate, second-rate, or even third-rate sect forces, all are like this. Including some demon cultivators, as well as the demonic sects of the 9 Netherlands. Is this more than just a change in the sky? The entire spiritual world has changed. Everyone, please step back. Chen Tianqiao waved his hand impatiently. He had long since resigned from the position of sect leader. Maybe it's time for me to leave too? Thinking of this, he stood up and walked out of the house, disappearing from the spot. He wants to go to the Demon Dragon King to see what he thinks. In comparison, the 5 Elements sect fell into great sorrow and joy. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 918. Sadly, their ancestor, the 5 Elements Sanren, was killed by their enemy Yayuan with a hammer. Fortunately, the entire spiritual world has suffered heavy losses. Since the nascent soul stage, at least 90% of the monks in the realm above have died. Among them are some Mahayana periods. What's more, Tianwei fell from the sky and became one with their territory. If they invade Tianwei, can they bring this mysterious place under the rule of the 5 Elements sect? At that time, the outer world will be like their back garden, and all kinds of elixirs in it will belong to them. The elixirs needed to refine the 5 elixirs will also be in an endless supply, and they can take whatever they ask for. In the back mountain, all the monks except for the tribulation period came out and began to arrange the next things. Perhaps from now on, the spiritual world will be dominated by the 5 Elements sect family. Zuyun had no idea about the situation in the spiritual world at this time. After coming out of the immortal mansion, he took Feng Qingyang to look for Sword Valley. Unlike the Avatar, he holds the Chaos Sword in his hand and he can feel the energy of the sword. As soon as I came out, I discovered that this place happened to be within the scope of Sword Valley. But before he went far, he saw an unconscious man. She is very young and looks like she is about the same age as him. However, the skin color is relatively darker, and the auricles are somewhat pointed, which seems to be slightly different from humans. This person may also be from Sword Valley. I happened to catch him and let him lead the way. Zuyun thought for a moment, then stopped, stretched out his hand to face the man and entered the power of chaos. After a moment, the man woke up faintly, but his expression changed, and he hit Zuyun with an empty fist. I saved you, but you still dare to attack me. The momentum of this empty fist was amazing, but it had no spiritual power. Zuyun sneered, stretched out his hand and slapped his fist away. What a joke, you, a member of the 5 Elements sect, will save me, Yayuan. This person is none other than Yayuan, who was blown away by the remaining power of the immortal platform. Yayuan. Zuyun stared with disbelief on his face. After connecting with the incarnation's memory, of course he knew who Yayuan was. It can be said that if it weren't for Yayuan, the incarnation might have been refined into an external magic weapon by the 5 Elements Sanren. What, you know me? That's right, our Ye family is your 5 Elements sect's nightmare. Yayuan stood up. Although he was weak, he was not afraid at all when facing Zuyun. You are wrong, Zuyun shook his head and said, I am not from the 5 Elements sect, I just happen to practice the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. How can there be such a coincidence in the world? Yayuan laughed and said, it just so happened that I smashed your ancestor to death, do you want revenge? Then come on. It just so happened that I was powerless, and it was easy for you to kill me when you were only in the stage of becoming a god. Yayuan frowned and wrote his name upside down. Zuyun sighed. It seemed that the 5 spiritual roots were really not welcomed in the spiritual world. Once someone discovered them, they would think they were from the 5 Elements sect. Yayuan, I thought you were from Sword Valley, and the reason why I rescued you was to find you to lead the way. Since you are not, it's time for me to leave. Great changes have taken place in the outer world, so you should take care of yourself." After saying that, Zuyun turned around and left, very simply and without any sloppiness. This actually made Ye Yuan a little surprised. The Five Elements sect and the Ye family are feuding, and the reason for this is his mother's relationship. Back then, his mother had not yet met Ye Yang. When she was going through the demon saint heavenly tribulation in the spirit world, she was sneak attacked by the Five Elements Sans. Qiu Linjian was injured with a hammer. As a result, Qiu Linjian was not only seriously injured and unable to overcome the calamity, but also was the tribulation thunder struck the East mortal realm. Fortunately, I met Ye Yang, one person and one demon. After many hardships, he finally returned to the spirit world. It was finally time to kill the Five Elements Sanren, but they unintentionally triggered the immortal tribulation, and both the man and the demon flew away. Fortunately, Ye Yang was prepared and allowed Ye Yuan to stay. "Hey, kid." At this time, Ye Yuan didn't know what he was thinking, and suddenly shouted to Zuyun. Zuyun stopped and the corners of his mouth curved. Ye Yuan is Ye Yang's son and may be able to know the news about his father. But does it matter? Not important. Once upon a time, Zuyun thought that he would follow in Ye Yang's footsteps because Ye Yang was a monk without spiritual roots. But as he went further and further on the path to immortality, he discovered that monks without spiritual roots were not representatives of perseverance and Taoism. To cultivate immortality, you need to find the path that suits you. If you work harder, you will gain something. Obviously, Ye Yang has found his own way. However, Zuyun still admired Ye Yang from the bottom of his heart. As for his son, Zuyun is not interested. Although, he saved the Avatar's life. But the original intention of the incarnation was to kill the Five Elements Sanren. I am good, but not unreasonably good. Ye Yuan, what else can you do? When Zuyun turned around, his face was expressionless. Going to Sword Valley, right? I'll go with you. Zuyun was not surprised to hear this. Because at this time, Ye Yuan was no different from a normal person. Maybe just by following him, you will be safe. Aren't you afraid that I will be misunderstood as a member of the Five Elements sect? Zuyun raised his eyebrows and asked, but he didn't expect Ye Yuan to laugh and said, "People from the Five Elements sect don't dare to enter the outer world. This is the rule set by my father. Otherwise, why would I not choose to ascend during the tribulation period?" "Really?" Zuyun also smiled slightly and said, "When I came from the mortal world, I was taken to the outer world by a deacon of the Five Elements sect. Ye Yuan, your father's rules don't seem so strict." Facing Zuyun's sarcasm, Ye Yuan didn't care. Instead, he walked to Zuyun and said with a smile, "Boy, how can you guess my father's thoughts? The spiritual world is divided between Tianweishan, Five Elements sect and Zhuyuzi. The earth is divided into three parts of the world. If I want to kill every person from the Five Elements sect who comes into the world, how busy will I be? It's just a young deacon in the transformation stage, it doesn't matter. And, isn't that person in the transformation stage also dead?" Zuyun smiled as he listened to Ye Yuan's explanation, but he couldn't laugh any more afterward. Because Ye Yuan actually knew that Tu Cheng was in the stage of becoming a god. "Ye Yuan, how do you know?" Zuyun said in shock. "Ha ha ha," Ye Yuan smiled proudly, "Boy, my father is not very smart and will hit him with a hammer for everything. But my mother can plot the entire spiritual world as long as she has the will. However, after following my father, her temperament has changed. She is a mere genius. As long as she thinks about it, nothing can escape her eyes. And I have inherited this ability from her." After saying that, Ye Yuan pointed at his eyes as if to show off, as if he could see through everything in the world. Zuyun was frightened by the word inheritance in Ye Yuan's mouth. Qiulinjian is a demon. After marrying with Ye Yang and giving birth to Ye Yuan got the inheritance of the demon? Although it is said that the demon saint has two choices to overcome the tribulation, one is to become a human and start practicing again, the other is to keep the demon form and continue to cultivate. But no matter which one it is, Zuyun feels that bringing the unique inheritance of the demon clan is against the law of heaven. But Ye Yuan has inherited it? Zuyun took a deep breath and said, "Then you'd better stop following me." Ye Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "Why, are you afraid of being seen through by me?" This is really what Zuyun was thinking. But it is impossible to say these words. Bringing you with me is a burden. Besides, I have other things to do, and I'm afraid you will ruin my plan. Ye Yuan sneered and said, "Plan? What plan can you have in your short period of becoming a god? Is it possible that you want to unify the spiritual world?" "I don't dare." Zuyun took a step forward, still holding Feng Qingyang in his hand, and said without looking back, "Anyway, just don't follow me, I'm afraid you will cause trouble for me." Tch, Ye Yuan shook his head and followed up with steps, but Zuyun's feet took the steps of the immortality secret. How could Ye Yuan keep up? Soon, Ye Yuan stopped, with a thoughtful look on his face. "This kid is from the East Mortal realm. I have never been to the East Mortal realm, why do I feel so familiar? However, his steps are a bit interesting. He does not use any spiritual power, but he walks so mysteriously. If I can learn it, that would be great. It doesn't matter how fast you are, as long as I, Ye Yuan, can catch up even if I don't have any spiritual power." After the words fell, he whispered softly, and the hammer-shaped mark on his forehead suddenly glowed with purple thunder. When the light faded, a hammer suddenly appeared in Ye Yuan's hand. "Thunder Immortal Hammer. Hammer, take me to follow him, don't let him find out." Ye Yuan chuckled and jumped up. Just as he sat down cross-legged, a ray of light suddenly appeared in his eyes, and he looked at an inconspicuous hole. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 919. It's interesting. There is actually a space magic weapon that can hide people. Ye Yuan jumped off the Thunder Immortal Hammer again, shrunk the hammer and held it in his hand, and smashed it directly towards the stone sword. It was clear that he had no spiritual power, but the hammer was as powerful as breaking the stone sword. A painting scroll fell into Ye Yuan's eyes. You're actually practicing inside. Didn't you notice such a big movement like me? Ye Yuan looked at it, and then threw the scroll into the hammer. This hammer is actually a magic weapon that can be stored? If Zuyun were here, he would definitely be surprised. Okay, it's time to go. The guy said he was going to Sword Valley. Sword Valley is not far away. I can go there slowly. Ye Yuan sat back on the Thunder Immortal Hammer and flew towards that side leisurely. At this time, Zuyun also appeared in the familiar valley. It was exactly where Tu Cheng took him to the entrance of Sword Valley. There was no one guarding the door, and Zuyun walked in swaggeringly. Perhaps because he felt the relatively strong wind energy here, Feng Qingyang also woke up leisurely. Zhu, Senior Zhu, where is this? Feng Qingyang looked around, obviously every corner was unfamiliar, but it always gave him a sense of familiarity. After all, this is the ancestral land of the main line of the Feng family. Sword Valley. Zuyun said lightly, looking at the two figures who suddenly appeared in front of him. It's just the nascent soul stage. You are from the Five Elements sect. One of the nascent souls recognized Zuyun, and even recognized that he was in the realm of the divine transformation stage, and his voice trembled. I'm not, Zuyun shook his head indifferently and said, but I'm here to find someone. Looking for someone? Who are you looking for? The nascent soul looked relaxed, but still asked with some vigilance. Now, he is the strongest person in Sword Valley. Because those who exceeded him all went to participate in the immortal stage. However, they had been frightened like an earthquake before, so they finally recovered and Zuyun came out. In fact, what came out with him was just a pill-forming stage. Feng and he. Zuyun moved step by step with impressive momentum. Feng and he. The nascent soul retreated continuously, saying as he did so, Senior, I don't know something. Feng and he stole the family master's sword and ran away. We searched for him in Tianwaishan for 3 months, but we still couldn't find him. The family master was also furious. What? Ran away? Zuyun, with the old god present, suddenly lost his composure. How could Feng and he escape from Sword Valley? If he were in other places, Zuyun might still believe it. After all, with a single wind spirit root, no one could escape as fast as he could. But where is this? This is Sword Valley, this is the ancestral land of the Feng family. Everyone has single-line wind spirit roots. Can Feng and a nascent soul stage escape? Even Feng Qingyang was extremely surprised. Because at that time in the Juyu land in the East Mortal Realm, when Tong Feng and he parted, he had made an agreement that when he arrived in the spirit world and handed over a sword body to the family, he could leave the Feng family and go to the Juyu land to find the sword. Them. But the news I heard now is that my father seems to have done something big. He stole the sword and even escaped the pursuit of his family. How is this possible? It's true. Seeing that Zuyun didn't believe it, Yuan Ying was almost frightened to tears, and said quickly, Senior, I don't dare to lie to you. Just ask the people in the clan, they all know about this. At that time, the head of the family will get rid of me. In addition, all the tribesmen above the nascent soul stage called out, just to find Feng and he. But they found nothing. They didn't go to participate in the ascension stage until it opened. But for some reason, they haven't come back yet. This nascent soul is not simple either. This is a hint to Zuyun that Feng Zhen may come back at any time so as to scare him away without irritating him. After all, it's just a stage of transformation. Unfortunately, Zuyun knew that the ascension platform was destroyed and none of the monks involved could come back. It was also the incarnation of Feng Qingyang who accidentally came to save him, otherwise he would also die under the raging immortal power. Snort. Zuyun snorted coldly and walked straight over. How could nascent soul dare to stop him? Instead of retreating continuously, he became Zuyun's guide. Everywhere he walked, he took the initiative to introduce Zuyun. Until, Zuyun walked to their sect leader's hall and sat down on the head seat. What a strong wind spirit power! There seemed to be a formation under the seat, and Zuyun felt very comfortable after sitting on it. However, he still stood up, waved to Feng Qingyang, and said, Come on, come and sit down and try. Feng Qingyang was not polite. Even if he wanted to be polite, he would not dare. Zuyun told him personally, and he simply sat down. Suddenly, he couldn't help but let out a moan. Perhaps, the wind spirit power flowing on it will not be of much help to Feng Zhen, but it will be of great benefit to Feng Qingyang, who is still in the pill formation stage. Not only is it helping him practice, but it is also slowly healing the injuries in his body. We'll wait here for a while and see what happens. Zuyun had his own concerns. He thought it was incredible that Feng and he could escape the Feng family's pursuit. And since the Feng family has gained nothing, then naturally, Feng and he is most likely to still stay in a corner of the Feng family's ancestral land. When he was in the mortal world, he had experienced a lot of this kind of escape and was rich in experience. It was not difficult to guess Feng and he's thoughts. After a while, Zuyun decided to personally visit the place where Feng and he had stayed. After giving Feng Qingyang a few instructions, he placed a 9-turn 9-yang formation around him to prevent anyone from disturbing or harming him. He then summoned nascent soul stage and asked him to lead the way to Feng Zhen's sword refining room. Yuanienki originally didn't dare, but under Zuyun's pressure, he had to dare even if he didn't dare. Soon, Zuyun arrived at Feng Zhen's sword refining room. Senior, Feng and he was refining the sword here before, but how to refine it, we don't know. At that time, the master of the family had mastered the sword, and he didn't know what else needed to be refined. This nascent soul stage is not stupid. When he saw Zuyun being extremely calm, although he did not dare to think that Feng Zhen was dead, it was not difficult to guess that the head of the family would not be able to come back in a short time. Of course, this also includes the elders of the clan. If you want to survive, you can only cooperate with Zuyun as much as possible. Didn't you say that Feng and he handed over a sword body? Zuyun suddenly remembered that at first he thought the sword was his own, but unexpectedly, Feng and he actually took it out. I almost misunderstood him. Yes, it has a sword body. The nascent soul stage nodded quickly and said, I also remembered that the head of the family seemed to have asked him to refine the sword body into a sword embryo. We can all do this kind of thing, but I don't know why Feng and he came here. Let a stranger do it. Refining. Sword embryo. It was the first time Zuyun heard the word sword body from Mengwei. At that time, it was still Jian Tianming. Jian Tianming was born with a sword body, so his talent in swordsmanship is unique, so he arrogantly changed his surname to Jian and changed his name to Tianming. But later on, Jian Tianming and Sun Qiniang became one. Although they repeatedly fought for control of their bodies, due to a coincidence, Sun Qiniang finally won. It also has to be said that Sun Qiniang's swordsmanship talent was influenced by the sword destiny, and she also achieved extraordinary achievements in swordsmanship. You must know that at that time, after Sun Qiniang's reborn body entered the spirit sword sect, she practiced swordsmanship at a very fast speed. But at this time, what Yuanienki said was that the sword body was actually used for refining, and it was also refined into a sword embryo. Is this trying to lure people in? If this is the case, could it be that the sword body Feng and he handed over was a living person? When he thought of this, Zuyun's face immediately turned ugly. He grabbed the nascent soul by the collar and shouted sternly, Tell me, is the sword Feng and he handed over the same person? It's a human being. Faced with Zuyun's sudden change of expression, the nascent soul stage was immediately frightened and recognized it immediately. However, that person is not a normal person. I heard from the head of the family that he seems to have lost his mind and is a puppet. I'm afraid of returning, but I still want to try my best to stay alive in the Yuanying stage. He guessed that Zuyun couldn't accept the fact that the Feng family was refining living people. Also, apart from the Feng family, who can know such a confidential matter? But in the entire spiritual world, are there too many cases where living people and living creatures are used to refine magic weapons and spiritual weapons? It's just that everyone is hiding it and won't publicize it openly. It is said that people from the 5 Elements sect will take 5 dolls with single spiritual roots to refine the 5 spirit pills. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 920. A person who has lost his mind. Zuyun's clenched hand couldn't help but loosen a little, but he was still a little angry. He threw the nascent soul stage aside, and then slammed it on the stove with a palm. Boom! There was a loud noise, the furnace exploded, and the sword refining room was destroyed. Under the furnace, the flames leaped wildly, threatening to attack Zuyun. Snort! Zuyun snorted coldly, and with just a moment of concentration, Fen Tianyan came out of his belly and turned into a sea of fire, engulfing the spiritual fire in the furnace. Heaven, sky fire! The nascent soul stage was also a discerning person, and when he saw that Fen Tianyang could transform into a human being after swallowing it, he couldn't help but exclaimed. Because he knew that the fire in Feng Zhen was also a fire from heaven. Anything that can be swallowed up by heavenly fire is naturally also heavenly fire. Moreover, it is stronger than the heavenly fire of the patriarch. Fen Tianyang glanced at him with a joking look on his face, and then said to Zuyun, "Master, are you still there? It would be nice to eat some, is there any more? Are you on fire everywhere?" Zuyun glanced at him sideways, and saw Fen Tianyang laugh twice, and then got back into Zuyun's body. However, this time he did not re-enter the lower abdomen, but entered Zuyun's arm, meaning next time if Zuyun wants to summon him to fight, he can do it faster. Senior, I know where there is sky fire." At this time, the nascent soul stage was already frightened. Because Zuyun destroyed Feng Zhen's sword-making furnace and swallowed the sky fire. What does this mean? This shows that he is not afraid of wind shock at all in this Mahayana period. A person in the stage of transformation is not afraid of the Mahayana stage. Apart from having a backer, there is only one possibility. Mahayana is dead. This nascent soul stage has some brains, otherwise he wouldn't be left here to guard the house by Feng Zhen. Oh? Where? Sure enough, Zuyun immediately became interested. The branches of the Feng family in the four mortal realms. Nascent Soul Chi hurriedly said, "There are branches of our Feng family in the four mortal realms of southeast, northwest, and northwest. They abide by the ancestral precepts and guard the sky fire. In addition to suppressing the sky fire, they also help find the sword body." As he said that, he remembered that Zuyun was from the Dongfen realm, so he continued, "Senior, the Feng family branch of the Dongfen realm is in Huaitan Valley. Feng and he is the leader of that clan. He also holds the secret method to suppress the sky fire. Do you want to find him for the secret method to help suppress the sky fire and then engulf it?" Zuyun raised his eyebrows. These few sentences contain a lot of information. First, we know that there are four mortal realms. Secondly, the Feng family actually guards four heavenly fires. What is their purpose? The third is the method of suppressing the four heavenly fires. It sounds simple, but how can it be so easy to go to the mortal world? Zuyun didn't say anything clearly, so he took the opportunity to test whether they had a way to go to the mortal world. "Senior, others can't go to the mortal world, but our Feng family has a way. You see." After saying that, he raised his head and looked at Zuyun with a look full of flattery. Apparently, he told Zuyun and asked him to let him live. "Okay," Zuyun smiled slightly and said, "Tell me everything I want to know, and I will naturally let you live. Of course, you can continue to stay in the Feng family, or you can leave Tianweishan." After hearing this, Yuan Yingqi was extremely sure that not only Feng Zhen was dead, but the other elders must also be dead. Otherwise, how would you dare to be so domineering during this stage of transformation into gods? It was just that he was sitting on the position of the head of the family before, and he even let the descendants of that branch sit on him. After all, he was in the nascent soul stage, and he could feel that Feng Qingyang was a descendant of the branch of his family. "Okay, then I will tell you first how to get to Dongfen realm." Before the nascent soul stage could speak, a burst of wild laughter suddenly came out, with a burst of coercion, which directly crushed the entire sword refining room. But the miraculous thing is that the masonry and rubble are flying in all directions, as if there is a huge explosion in the center of the sword refining room. Virgin of the Zhangdao. Zuyun was horrified. The golden spirit bead was refined by himself and condensed into an incarnation. He was now in the world of the universe. But can the Zhangdao Venerable still be found here? This obviously left some mark on him. Boy Zuyun, if you didn't cultivate your Haligan in the sea, why did you come to Sword Valley again? Could it be that you want to find a good sword and become a swordsman? Sarcasm, naked sarcasm. Zuyun looked extremely ugly, but still subconsciously protected the nascent soul stage behind him. He is going to the mortal world, so he cannot die. Senior Dirty, I admit that I lied to you, but it was you who threatened me first. I am practicing my own way properly, why should I practice your dirty way again? Now that the matter has come to this, Zuyun simply accepts it. At worst, he will die, but he still has an incarnation and will have one more life anyway. It's just this Diwu glass mirror. I wonder if it will be obtained by the Zhangdao master. However, Zuyun also knew to some extent that since Xian took away the remnant soul in the jade slip, there was a high probability that others would not be able to take away his Dao glazed mirror. Unless, he is dead. This death refers to the death of both him and the incarnation, and the loss of mental connection with the Dao glazed mirror. Ha ha ha, boy, do you know why I chose you? Zhangdao master floated in the air, looking down at Zuyun with a playful smile. Why? Zuyun was also stunned. He remembered that Zhangdao Zun had told him that his heart was still a little dirty. Since you are cultivating the spiritual power of the dirty Dao, isn't it just right that I am dirty? Little did he know that what Zhangdao Zun wanted was a Zuyun with an extremely pure heart, or in other words, a Zuyun with a kind heart. Only in this way can he pass all his dirty Dao to Zuyun in the form of initiation. Then, he can survive the heavenly tribulation without spiritual roots, which makes it easy for him to survive the heavenly tribulation. There is a rumor in the spiritual world that under the same circumstances, the more kind-hearted a person is, the less powerful the heavenly tribulation he survives, which means it is easier to survive the heavenly tribulation and achieve Taoism and ascend. Therefore, Zhangdao Zun has been suppressing it so as not to survive the heavenly tribulation. Because his Dao is dirty. If he attracts a heavenly tribulation, it is very likely to be a catastrophe, which will directly blow him to pieces. Therefore, he needs a carrier to transfer his Dao. Zuyun is the cultivator with the cleanest heart he has ever met. Moreover, he has a lot of room for manipulation since he is only in the spiritual transformation stage. It doesn't matter what I say. What matters is that I can't let you run away this time. Hee, I have prepared the spiritual transformation water this time. No matter what spiritual root you have, I can wash it for you. Zuyun. Don't you want to break through to at least the Mahayana stage for nothing? Obediently obey me and suffer less pain. After saying that, Zhangdao Zun stretched out his hand to Zuyun through the air, and a huge black hand, covering the sky and the sun, grabbed Zuyun. Don't even think about it. Zuyun concentrated his mind and pulled over the nascent soul stage. At the same time, he used the breaking void spirit eye technique in his eyes and aimed at the gap between the fingers of the giant palm. Bang! The black giant palm exuded endless hostility and slapped the ground, but Zuyun saw it clearly and it just slipped through the gap between the fingers. Good boy, you look ordinary, but your reaction is first class. No wonder Chen Tianqiao can't do anything to you. The more he saw Zuyun Qiang, the more excited Zhangdao Zun was. Because this means that his chance of success this time is very high. Two fists can't beat four hands. Let me see if you can escape my palms. While speaking, Zhangdao Zun stretched out his other hand. The black hand that slapped the ground also pulled up again, and the two hands gradually closed and covered Zuyun. Now, there is no way to escape. I can't sit and wait for death. Even if I die, there is still an incarnation. But I finally got a clue to go to the mortal world. This Yuanying stage can't let him die. Zuyun's heart moved, and he subconsciously wanted to take out the chaos sword. But thinking that it was impossible to kill Zhangdao Zun today, and it was inevitable that he would meet again in the future, so he gave up this idea, and threw the Yuanying stage behind him, clenched his fists and went up. Chaos Fist. Since it was a fight to the death, and the opponent wanted to dissolve his spiritual roots, then there was no need to hide the 5 spiritual roots in front of Zhang Daozun. One punch, all things revive. The chaos force condensed on the fist, and with the power of vitality, it met the black palm with a bang. Bang. The black palm was like the sky. Zuyun used almost the chaos force of a whole lotus heart in this palm, but he couldn't shake it at all. But Zuyun had expected it. After the first punch, the second punch followed. 2 punches, the world is moist. The power of the second lotus heart instantly poured into the fist. When it hit again, it was transformed into countless water spiritual forces, like a heavy rain from bottom to top, pouring down on the black palm. Where the raindrops fell, it seemed to be corroded into small holes. Just when Zhang Daozun was surprised, the third punch came. 3 punches, thunder. Bang. A thunder burst out from Zuyun's fist, shaking the sky.